Let's go, folks. Time for the Gibby Show.
How you doing, baseball fans, and welcome to another edition of the Gibby Show, the show that we talk about the game we all love, and sometimes it breaks your heart, Major League Baseball. We're here once again with the star of the show, one of the most iconic figures in the history of Canadian baseball, the two-time manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, baseball lifer, and back from safari. It's none other than John Gibbons. John, how you doing?
Well, you tell me. I'm a little beat up, man. Hanging out there in the wild, wild west. No,
Yeah.
it's a great trip, Johnny. I love your introductions, man. It makes me feel good every day. I can be down in the dumps, and you introduce me that way, and I just kind of, smile.
It's true. I mean, everybody loves you, and especially now on social media. I mean, the videos you've been posting there at John Gibbons 05 on Instagram or Twitter, the wilderness, the wild horses, the buffalo. You're in your car in a safe haven, just calling out, making a noise at one of the buffaloes. They start snorting and growling at you. It was really Buffalo Gibby out there, and it was beautiful, the landscape. You must have had a great time just kind of chilling and getting off the grid.
Yeah, I loved it. That's kind of my scene. I really enjoy that stuff. But now that I'm back home, you just gonna have to look at some butterflies flying around.
There you go. Time to relax and watch. Do you have a net to catch the butterflies? You do a little butterfly collecting, John?
I just put my arm out, and hope they land on it and watch some baseball games.
There you go. Lots of baseball. Obviously, lots of baseball to talk about. I mean, it's been a little over a week since the Blue Jays were eliminated from the wild card, and Ross Atkins had a big press soiree. I guess they call it a media scrum right after the season was over, and probably the biggest thing that came out of that. And, of course, we're going to be getting into free agents and who they should keep, who they should not. But, I mean, the question that was kind of a little cryptic in a way, but not. It was when they started talking about John Schneider. Of course, John, the interim manager of the Blue Jays. And there's so much to digest about everything that happened. But emerging through all the disappointment of that loss was, a lot of fans and insiders feel the confidence for Schneider can continue to lead this group into better days in 2023. But Ross Atkins, in his statements, and I'm going to quote him here, he's certainly said that Schneider put himself in a good position to return as manager next year, this time without the interim tag. But Atkins said, quote, "I feel confident about the job that he has done, and I think it'll be very difficult for us to find better than John Schneider," said Atkins. But out of respect for the organization, out of respect for John Schneider, I do want time to work through the process with him. So what does that mean, John?
I don't know, man. I'm not a lawyer. I couldn't tell you that, man. Or I'm not a politician, man. Yeah, Johnny, it's kind of surprised me a little bit. But one thing I will say, I know they're very thorough everything they do. That regime there, and they have the process. They go step by step by step. Either that or Schneid's holding out for like a huge contract right now. He's and they can't come to terms yet. But I would be very surprised if they didn't bring him back. But they do do their due diligence, I guess you would call it. But it probably sure could be much simpler than that. Just say, here, when you're coming back, here's what we're gonna do, but we'll see. Maybe there's some questions behind the scene. I've got no idea.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, it was surprising that with the run that the Jays had after he took over as manager, and getting into the wild card. Of course, no one could have predicted what happened last week when they got eliminated, and that that bounce that Springer dove forward with Bichette, and just that was just so odd, and the way it ended, it was bad feelings. But you would think that because of the second half of the season and everything that went right for the Jays, that Schneider could have been announced as the manager even going into the playoffs. to give him some
Right.
security. But like you said, there could be some stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah, kind of like Thompson there with the Phillies,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure something will get done. Hey, you look at it's all about winning and losing. When Schneider took over, they played really well and won and put themselves in a good position. It didn't end the way anybody ever wants it or the way they wanted it, but the Dodgers are saying the same thing, the Braves are saying the same thing. It
Yeah, I
didn't end
mean,
those things. That's baseball. So I'm sure they'll get something done. I hope they get something done. But it is kind of strange how it's all playing out.
oh, it is. But Thompson, by the way, was signed to another 2-year deal, 2-year extension with Phillies. So
Yes,
that's
yeah,
already been done.
Thompson's a good Canadian boy too, man. He paid his dues. He was the bench coach, under Girardi all those years with the Yankees, and then of course he went to the Phillies, and then Girardi came over there. Really a great baseball guy, and well deserved, and he's one of those guys you pull for, and I'm glad it's turned out that way. Other than that, he beat the Bravos, man, my old employer.
Oof. Yeah, we're going to get into some of that as well. I mean, this has been a postseason that has been so surprising in so many ways. These playoffs, and especially this past Saturday when 3 teams got eliminated, when you have the underdogs like the Padres, the Phillies. I mean, the Astros did what they did. I mean, they were the favorites anyway. And then you have the Guardians and the Yankees still up for grabs, and that'll be decided tonight as we tape this. But your viewpoints on what's going on in these wacky playoffs. I mean, nothing that you expected has happened.
Yeah, it's hard to, it's really kind of, nobody predicted much of this. Obviously, I wouldn't think. But that's kind of the beauty of baseball and sports in the playoffs, the way that works. But yeah, the baseball world's shocked. My gosh, the networks they're hoping like hell the Yankees get in there, man. They're really they're scrambling, right? The Dodgers, I think was everybody's favorite. They ran into a tough Padre team that was playing well. They were actually playing like everybody predicted. After they made the moves,
after trades.
Even without Tatis, right? So good things are happening, and because there's big question marks. They were even battling to get in there at one point, which was shocking to the baseball world. And then, of course, the Phillies they slug it out, but they're playing their best brand of baseball. But they had to go down to the wire to even get in. And our guest we have coming up has talked about how important that can be. He put some pretty good insight into all that. It's just with the Braves, they got on that run last year and ran through the playoffs. Nobody, and then of course they run into the Phillies, and Atlanta was arguably the hottest team at the time going into this. Yeah, so you can't figure it out, and then of course they ended up overtaking your Metropolitans that last game of the last weekend of the season. And and I think that shocked the Mets a little bit, and it kind of and I think it maybe kind of set them back a little bit against the Padres. You never know. We all
It took the wind out of their sails, and it just kind of took the life out of even the fan base when the Braves swept them, and the Mets needed to win one game, and then with San Diego coming in and getting hot at the right time, winning 2 of 3. It was a deflation. It was a heartbreak, but you look forward to next year. But when I'm looking forward to the Phillies against the Padres, I think and even when you're watching these games on television and the fan bases and how fanatical and the explosions of these fans who haven't really been in this position, like the Phillies made the championship series for the first time in 10 years. And when you're looking at the Padres, it's even further than that. And the Dodgers spanked the Padres all season long.
All along, yeah.
And now look what happens. It's like it was an amazing thing to watch, to see that happen and unfold the way it did.
Yeah, there's so much. A lot of times it seems like there's so much emotion involved, right?
Yeah.
And if it's positive emotion, like the Padres, the Padres go, win that first game, beat Scherzer, right? Okay, now they're feeling really good. The odds of that happening probably not good. So you going, but now you do it. Now you're going, okay, now we got life, right? And then they come back and win, again. So that's how the mindset changes. In the fact, when you flip it over, even the Metros, it's just the opposite. They beat our top dog right now. You know, and uh, and then the Phillies. The Phillies come back against the Cardinals. When they were being shut out in the ninth inning and beat it, came back. Now that those emotions flips, right? That now they're feeling, well, we can do this, and the Cardinals are going. They had all this, like, the historic run by Pujols there at the end. They're feeling good. But so just one thing can do that, and even the Braves, you get when they ran up against the Phillies, losing that first one, it's like, the Astros. The Astros, well, Alvarez, the big walk-off home run,
What a
right?
bopper, man. Came
Yeah,
through.
yeah, and but Seattle was riding high off those two games against the Blue Jays, right?
Yeah.
So now those emotional, in short series, especially those emotional swings, can almost dictate the whole series if it happens early, because teams that maybe don't think they can do it, or there's maybe that slight little doubt, and all of a sudden you give them life, and the other guys are going like, "Ooh, this isn't supposed to happen." So it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the Yanks tonight.
Oh, it will. It will. I mean, one thing about the Astros, though, they made history, too, getting into the ALCS for the sixth consecutive year.
They're good.
That
They're
is
really,
what a machine. But yeah, lots to talk about as we continue to watch these playoffs unfold and championship series leading into the World Series. We'll be covering that. We'll be covering all of the Blue Jays off-season moves and the speculation. So we have a really interesting hot stove league that we're going to be diving into each and every week here. And John, as always, I mean, lots always to talk about in baseball, but now we have a very special guest that we're going to be bringing on for the Gabbing with Gibby segment. So we'll go to that right now. Well, it's time for another Gabbing with Gibby segment, and this week is once again, John's pulled another wonderful guest out. He is a former player of the Toronto Blue Jays, one of the really gutsiest and grittiest players in the game. Current Los Angeles Dodger, former New York Met, played on several teams, and he's kind of like how Gibby stated it, human highlight reel. We'd love to bring on Kevin Pillar. Kevin, how you doing today?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
looking
Wonderful.
good, man. Hey,
You're looking
you're
great.
looking good.
You're looking
Rehab, huh?
great.
You feel good? I mean, you got over that injury. Tell us a little bit about your shoulder, where you're at right now.
Yeah, I'm fully recovered. It's kind of just a weird play. A ball hit to the shortstop behind me. I was at second base. With one out, you usually have the ability to kind of just walk to third. Infielders are taught to just take the sure out. Guy threw behind me. I had nowhere to slide, and I tried to get around the third baseman. Felt my shoulder pop out. It was a very familiar feeling since I've had it before. I had it in college, so I knew that something was wrong. But I felt like I wanted to stay in the game and see how it felt as I kept playing. A couple innings later, I got on deck. I couldn't get the hands up quite as high as I wanted to, but I said I'm going to give this the best shot I got. Ended up drawing a walk, so I think the baseball gods were looking out for me. Baseball gods were looking out for me. And then as the guy picked over and I got to third base, I had to slide a couple more times. I kept feeling my shoulder pop in and out. Ended up coming around to score. I came in the dugout. They told me I was done for the day. I was kind of in a platoon situation. At that point, I said, "Hey, I did something to my shoulder." They said, "When?" I said, first inning. Ended up getting an MRI, bone scan the next day, complete tear of my labrum, and I ended up breaking the shoulder socket. So I was in surgery a week later. 2 screws put in the bone in the front of my shoulder, anchors put in to repair my labrum, and it was devastating. I mean, I had never really had a season-ending injury before. I've had a couple injuries that I've been able to play through and delay till the off season, but this was uncharted territory for me. Being 10 years in, I had no idea how to kind of get out of that baseball mind frame in the middle of the season, and I broke down a little bit. I shed some tears when the doctor told me my season was over. He told me it was going to be a 6 to 9 month recovery. I told Amanda, I told my parents, and then when I got to the field that day, I told them, what the doctor told me, and I told them that I would be back this year. They all looked at me like I was crazy. They said, "You don't come back from labrum in 3.5 months." And I said, "Well, that's the challenge that I needed." So I had the surgery, came back to Arizona, and just attacked the rehab like I've attacked everything else, and took it day by day. And you know, as I started to progress a little bit, getting away from the game was actually a little bit refreshing. It reminded me how much I still enjoy playing. It gave me an opportunity to work on my body, um, work on some things that you don't have an opportunity to work on all the time during the season. And, fortunately, I hit that goal that I had set, and I was back playing in games about 3.5 months. Went back to Oklahoma City, rehab, finished the year strong, and then I've been here in Arizona with about 10 other guys in what they call Stay Hot Camp. We're facing live pitchers, every other day, hitting on the field, taking ground balls, doing outfield stuff, just kind of stay ready if an injury happened during the playoffs. And now that it's over, I get to kind of shut it down a little bit, kind of reflect on the year and start to look forward to next year.
Wow. Hey, you know what? As hard as you played the game, I can't remember you suffering really any no serious injury. But to think that you would if you're going to hurt yourself, you would hurt yourself on some of those diving catches, where you're diving all over the place, and you would just be bounced right back up. But to do it on a slide, we all get a little bit older, that body breaks down a little bit. But that's I would have expected that. That's why you're such a rarity anyway. The beating you could take. Most guys.
Yeah, I think that was. We talked about this all the time. I think there's certain guys in this game that are superstars. You pencil them into the lineup every day because you expect them to do great things. And then there's guys like me that just play the game hard and know that their real value is that they can just be available every day. That was something I prided myself on. That's something that I told you all the time is I wanted to be in there every day, and I think my mindset was if I wasn't playing, the person that was going to play for me had an opportunity to take my job because that's how I viewed it when I wasn't playing every day is if you put me in there, I'm taking that guy's job. And I think that's something that I still believe in today. If I have the ability to play, I want to play. I understand that in a baseball season, you're not going to feel great every day, but I feel like sometimes my 60 or 70% is going to be better than the guy replacing me. So I want to be out there every day. So that's where the emotion came in during this injury. It wasn't the fact that my body had broken down and it needed to be repaired. It was the fact that I couldn't be out there and I couldn't play. And, that gives someone else an opportunity to take my job. And honestly, that kind of happened this year. Another guy, they brought someone over after my injury and he performed really, really well. And it leaves me in a tough situation for next year. So I think that's why being on the field is so valuable. I think health is the most important thing in this game. And, I'm looking forward to wherever I end up next year, going in and fighting for a job and staying healthy and regaining, the ability to go out there and play every day.
Yeah. You know what? Go ahead, Johnny.
No, I just because he was so resilient. I remember last year, it was May 19th, when you were playing with the Mets, you got struck in the face, 94-mile fastball by Jacob Webb of the Braves, but you were back by the end of the month. You were back, and you got a hit in your first at bat. So, that was such a horrific scene. You get hit square in the face. There's blood gushing out. Everyone is like, he's done for the season. 3 weeks later, you're in the lineup again. You're getting a hit in your first at bat. So the resilience that you've shown, not just with this shoulder injury, but in the past, really, just gritty and just so determined to come back as quick as possible.
Yeah, that was also an opportunity where we had some guys. I knew my role going into that season that I would be, kind of filling in, facing some lefties, and some injuries happened, and I was getting an opportunity to play, and I don't take that lightly in this game because, I feel like once you've been an everyday player and teams don't view you as that anymore, it's hard to get that opportunity again and I was getting that opportunity. And when I got hit, once again, went to the ER. They told me what happened. When can I be back on the field? Once I saw my surgeon and he operated, he told me 10 days post surgery I could be playing. And you bet on the 10th day I was back out there and playing, because I think I'm more fearful of just being forgotten. I think the longer you're out of the game, the longer you're out of the lineup, people forget what you're able to do on the field. So I want to be out there as much as possible, because I enjoy playing and I want to stay in this game as long as possible, because once you're out, you're out. It's hard to get back in as a player. I know Gibby could probably speak on that from, being a manager too. It's hard to continue to resurface. It's kind of hard to get another opportunity once you've had it. So while I still have the ability to have some name recognition and do some things, I want to be on the field and prove I can play, because it would have been very easy for me to be like, yeah, I got hit in the face, I needed surgery, I'm fearful of getting back in the box. No one would have blamed me for sitting out the rest of the year. But what's that leave? What position does that leave me in next year? I got to be on the field to prove that I could play. I feel like that's something I've had to do every single year, is just prove that I could play. Whether that's, my skill set's not as great as some other people, or maybe that's just a label you get when you get drafted super late in the draft, that you have to continue to prove yourself every day, year after year, day after day. But I embrace that challenge, and I feel like I'm in a position after this year to prove people wrong again. I think that's something that's going to motivate me. After this weekend, I'm going to take this week off. I'm going to go on a little trip with Amanda, get away from the kids, reconnect with Amanda a little bit, and then I'm going to hit the ground running. And while I'm working out, while I'm hitting, while I'm throwing, those are the things I'm going to remind myself is you got to prove yourself again, and that motivates me.
Yeah, Kev, you're different, man. There's no doubt about it. I've been around a lot of players, right? As a player myself, and then as a manager and a coach, there's something different about you. And there's a handful of you guys out there. There's not a lot of them, right? But your face looks good, man. You can't hurt that pretty face, unless that's why you got that beard going after you get hit or something.
I got a little improvement on the nose. I had to keep it. I think it's part of me, but it's definitely much improved. I'll show you later.
But you mentioned, nothing's ever come easy for you. There's no doubt about it. You were drafted like it was in 30-something round, 32nd round.
32nd, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, usually guys like that don't make it, right? In for whatever reason, or they don't ever really get an opportunity. And I can remember when you started playing in the minor leagues, everybody that you played for would always say, because when you're picked 32nd, yeah, you're getting your opportunity, but you're low man on the totem pole. You got to just keep doing it. But for every manager or coach that you play for, they would say, "Hey, you got to check out this Kevin Pillar guy." He says he's like, and I think you were like the team MVP every year, right? But you came from, I mean, you had an extinguished college career. You had like a 54 game hitting streak, and then did a lot of good things. I mean, you were a good player, but you know how the scouting world is. So anyway, I would hear about you all the time. And finally you forced your way in there. Nobody gave you anything, even when you made it with the Blue Jays, when you came up. And I can remember at the time, it wasn't a funny story, but when we brought you up, there was also Anthony Ghost was on the team, right? And we were trying to figure out, it was at the point in the season, we weren't very good again. One of those. So we're trying to let's give both these guys some playing time. So let's platoon them, right, and like that. And I can remember, and it just showed who you were in a good way. I think you were in the game, and then they brought in a right hander or something, so we were going to pinch hit, and you got all pissed off, right? And then after the game, we ended up sending you down, and it kind of exploded on us. But I knew in my heart. Actually, I'm going to refresh everybody. We sent you down because of the reaction, right? Remember? Mm-hmm. And it was like, in my thinking, it was this is BS. He ain't gonna pull this, right? One of those kind of things. But I knew in my mind this isn't a permanent move. You didn't know that at the time. But I got to also tell you, I don't think I've ever told you that at the time, we were probably going to send you down anyway because we had to make a move, so everything kind of fell in place. I don't even think you knew that. So
no, I didn't know that.
Okay, sorry.
Breaking news.
That's my chip I've been holding forever. No, to get you on the show. No, but anyway, then you worked your way back like you always did, and because nobody was going to deny you. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen because that's your mindset. And you became a permanent player on a good Blue Jays team when we finally reached the playoffs, and one of the all-time fan favorites. They can't help but love you just because of the way you play, right? And the way you show up.
I think in hindsight, I think it's better you didn't tell me that because I went down there scared to death. I remember it was actually I had just got called up that day. This was in 2014. I had my first taste the year before, didn't perform all that well. went to the Dominican Winter League, played down there, made some swing adjustments, came into spring training for the first time. In my head, I thought I was competing for a spot, but in reality, I probably wasn't. I knew I was destined for AAA, but I knew that I was going to be, on that short list of guys that was going to be coming up and down and have the opportunity to prove myself once again. But I had just got called up that day, and I started, and I'll never forget it. It was bases loaded, no outs. Dylan Betances came into the bullpen. I think it was the 7th inning, and as a young player, I was thinking, "Damn, this is one of the best pitchers in baseball." I don't know where we were at. I think that year we were actually competing. I think we were in a decent spot early on in the year, because I think I got sent down in April, May, like June, and I think we were still, close to first place at that point. And I'm thinking,
we were in the wild card.
Yeah, and I was thinking that this is my moment. Like this is what you dream of as a young baseball player. Like this is an at bat that either proves you can, the expectations are so low. Like you expect a guy like Dylan Betances to get someone out. Like myself, he was the best reliever in baseball at the time. But what if I get this guy for a 3-run double? Like this is my moment. And then I got pinch hit, and I came into the dugout, and I don't know how you remember it, but I know that I went down to the end of the dugout. I tossed my bat down the stairs. I kind of tossed my helmet towards, because we didn't really have a helmet rack. We just kind of set our helmets on the step, and I kind of tossed my helmet down there like. They don't believe in me. And I remember it hit another helmet, spun, hit you in the foot. And I said, oh, shit, this is it. And then I had to sit there for like 4 innings. I think I sat like this in the dugout. I think I prayed for 4 innings straight. And I think we ended up losing and got to my locker. DeMarlo came and tapped me on my shoulder. Said, Gibby wants to see you. And it wasn't a friendly conversation at the time. You were not happy about it. I don't know if you were so upset at what I had done or just the way that we were playing as a team. And
right.
I became a little bit of a scapegoat for it. But like I said, I mean, if I was getting sent down anyway, like it was better off for me that you didn't tell me. Because I went down to AAA thinking I'm never going to go to Toronto again. I need to start playing for 29 other teams. And I think it kind of just changed my overall behavior. I think, in the moment, I honestly, in this moment, I still think what I did wasn't that bad, but you're the manager. Like you have to respect decisions they make. And especially in the game we play now, managers make a lot of decisions. I was very fortunate to play for you where, once I established myself, I mean, I was out there every single day, regardless if I was in a funk or I was playing well. Like now, like everything is so micromanaged according to your swing and, does he hit this type of pitcher better? God forbid a right-handed hitter faces a right-handed pitcher. But I think it just prepared me for what was going to come later in my career. And I think when I came back, there was maybe a couple other moments that me and you we didn't see eye to eye on things, but I also think that's what made you a great manager is, we had the ability to be friendly and friends at times, but we all respected you as the manager. And when you spoke up, we listened. When you need to discipline, you disciplined. But it was all forgotten after the game. I remember there's a time I did something stupid, and you let me know how stupid it was. I tried to steal third base with the pitcher still having the ball because there was a shift on. I thought I could beat the guy to third base. And You call me the dumbest SOB on the face of the earth in the dugout. And I was like, he's probably right.
I did that.
And you made a scene, and then after the game, you came by and we talked about it and we moved on. And I think that's what I always liked about you is you had the ability to discipline and we respected it and we feared it, but it wasn't like you carried it on for a week and we had to be fearful of each other. We shook hands, we hugged it out, we moved on, and we all liked going to play for you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. But you were a winning player. I knew everything you ever tried out there was to help the team win. In my mind anyway. And I was the manager. So it was that.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
It might not have been a smart move, but everything you did out there was to help the team win. And I appreciated that. And I felt a little guilt after some of those things. But there's certain things you got to let everybody know what's going on. But I tell you, there's two guys in my managing career that showed up to play, ready to play every day more than anybody else, and it's you and Batista. You couldn't get you guys out of the lineup, right? And people ask me, but really, Jose, yes, yeah, Jose never needed any days off, but you two, you could count on that you could be banged up, but you're going to be in the lineup, right? And you understood it because the team needed you. You're going to maximize everything you got, and the fans wanted to see you.
Yeah, and I learned a lot from him. Just the way that he took care of his body. I obviously had youth on my side when I got called up, and Jose was, much older than I was, but I watched him play every single day, and I watched him go about his work. And I might not have done it right away because, like I said, I had youth on my side, but as I started to get a little bit older, I started doing the same things he did. I started watching him. I started asking him questions. He was way ahead of his time as far as the ability to take care of his body, to eat the right foods, to, have all the different devices to track your sleep and all that stuff. And I think that's what allowed Batista to play, at a high level for so long. And
right.
I thank him a lot for that. And, we still talk very often. He still educates me on different things that are out there, different things that can help me.
Oh, God. Jose's educating you?
Yeah. Jose is a very, very smart guy when it comes to the body.
Very intellectual. People don't realize it.
Yeah, he is.
Hey, real quick. All right. You're known for your catches, right? I mean, every time you turn around, you're doing something. It got to the point where people would ask me after a game, what do you think about Kevin's catch? I said, to tell you the truth, I've seen them all. I see them all the time. Nothing shocks me. I almost expect it. Do you have an all-time favorite that you made? Because there's a bunch that have. Do you have one that really sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, there's two. I think the first one when I robbed the home run on Jackie Robinson Day. Playing left field. That was kind of early in the 2015 season. I was still proving myself. I made the opening day roster. I was playing left field. I still felt like I could play center field. I wanted to play center field. And I think that just proved that, he is a good athlete. He can really play defense. And I felt like there was a snowball effect after that. Like I just kept getting opportunities to make really good plays in the outfield. And then I moved to center field and held that position for a while. And then I always think later in that year, I think we had just clinched. We went down to Tampa and we had 3 games and it was kind of stay healthy. Burley was trying to get through to 200 innings again.
Yeah.
And I made a play in Tampa that I ran a long way, went fully extended, and I remember Buck being like, I think these boys are ready for the playoffs. And I don't think a lot of people remember that catch, but I go back and look at that, and I would say that was probably one of the most difficult ones I made. That was probably the most, the most extended I ever got, covered a lot of ground, given the time of the season. Like you said, I just bounced right back up. I miss those days where I could just bounce right back up, even on the turf. But I'd say those 2 catches, obviously the one put me on the map, not only with our organization, but I think in the baseball world. I think they said, wow, right, we should watch this guy. This guy makes great plays. How did he do that? And then, like I said, the snowball effect kind of happened. I kept getting opportunities to go out there and make plays.
You work at it though. People don't always realize and during batting practice every day, you're out there, you're not diving, but you're working on your jumps and you're running balls down. A lot of guys get out there and they just kind of, style it and all that. But you do that. And all right, too, there's another thing, I guess you call it a series of play. It might have been Betances was pitching this time too, where you got a base hit. And he wasn't base hitting anyway. You stole second, stole third, he stole home. I'm sitting over on the bench going, I'm calling. You remember? Do you remember that? I don't know how many times that's happened in baseball history. It couldn't be that many. I wouldn't think.
No, I don't think it's happened. I think it's definitely happened. I think maybe one or two other times. But yeah, I mean, it started out very. I think someone had just hit a home run before that, put us up like 2 runs. This was the 8th inning. It started out with a very just innocent single to right field. We all kind of knew going into a series with the Yankees that Betances had trouble picking over, didn't really like to throw to bases. So stealing second was a foregone conclusion when I get on. You're going to get a big lead. You're going to force him to try to throw over, which he's probably not going to. So you steal second pretty easily. I think there was 2 outs at this time. So you get the second base with 2 outs, and you got to be 100% sure that you can steal third base. I was out there you got to be 100% sure. You don't want to get thrown out, especially with a guy that can run. You're already in scoring position there. It's gonna, any base hit I'm gonna score on. I was out there for a handful of pitches. I think Luke Maley was hitting. He was seeing a lot of pitches. And that's also the ability with 2 strikes is, or 2 outs is you don't have to worry about getting doubled up. So they weren't really paying attention to me. I said, let's try to get to third base here. I knew in my head it was 100%. Betances could be a little bit wild. You could score in a dirt ball. So I stole third. Then I think Maley had gone on with a walk, and then I forgot who was hitting, but it just seemed like he was a bit overmatched, like most guys would. It was probably the bottom of the order. And I was getting a big lead at third. No one was really paying attention to me, and I said, "This is my moment." But it was risky, because once again, it was high risk, high reward. If I make it, I look like a hero, and I did something really cool. If I get thrown out there,
you see my eyes over there.
Yeah, I mean, I have to deal with the wrath that is Gibby. So. But I never wanted to play scared. It was calculated. We had a 2-run lead too, so it wasn't. This was just an additional run, and I just went for it. And I think more than anything, it's being a little fearless, but it's also just good scouting. From you guys, from Tim Leeper, that we knew that he had trouble throwing the bases, so. I got a big lead and I just took off, and sure enough, like the report said, he threw it to the backstop. I scored. It was a pretty awesome moment in my career. I could still envision scoring, being pretty fired up, and having all those people in the stadium, on their feet. And it's just something I think a lot of players play for. You play for that moment that you get remembered for, a moment that helps your team win a game, and something I'll never forget.
No, and you were fearless, man. You had guts, and that's why you're a winner. All right, hey, Johnny, the co-host here, is a huge Mets fan. He's lived and died. He's still talking.
Yeah.
He's still crying about it the other day. But he's got something with him. Tell him about it, Johnny.
I got a little story. John and I actually met in the minor leagues when I was with the Mets as an executive at 22 years old, and he was the #1 draft pick. So we shared a house in Shelby, North Carolina. But I got a story. I've been going to Met games since 1966. I'm 65 years old. Never caught a foul ball all of those 50 plus years. Last year, Atlanta, I always go down there when the Mets play the Braves. And June 29th last year, you were in the lineup, you hit a ball left field, and it hit the net, protecting the fans right in that little caddy corner there. It bounced over it, landed right in my hands. My very first foul ball after 50-something years.
Wow.
There it is.
Yeah.
And, so a very, very special moment, because how often does that happen? For me, it took over 50 years, and I want to thank you for hitting that ball into the net. and giving me a nice souvenir.
I wish
that I can remember forever.
I wish you were sitting in the left field bleachers, but
That would have been better.
Behind third base is a pretty safe spot for a foul ball from my bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool. Hey, Kev, though, you remember though, in it was 15. We were just we really didn't know who we were as a team. We thought we were better. And I'm getting a little older. If I got these dates or these years wrong, let me know. But we went to Washington. And we just kind of sputtered along. We were just playing solid ball, but we weren't making any moves. And we got rained out. And then we had a doubleheader. And it was we were facing Zimmerman and Scherzer. And even Zimmerman back then was like one of the top dogs, right? So we knew we had our hands full. We got beat that first game. The second game, almost a must game in a lot of ways, without actually knowing that. You took Scherzer deep, to win, to
2 times.
I mean, nobody was doing
times.
that. That's right. It was twice, wasn't it?
Twice.
I told you I was. It came to my mind. I said,
I'll never forget it because I had never hit 2 homers in the same game at any level. Never in high school, never in little league, never in the minor leagues. So yeah, I mean, it was obviously one-off. Scherzer is memorable. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers of our generation. But to do it twice, I remember that was my first ever time having a multi-homer game. And like you said, I mean, we as players knew kind of the magnitude of that game. When you have a lot of the front office in town, and we're not playing very well, you kind of feel a certain way. And I remember I had gotten off to a good start that year in April. I think this was towards the end of May, maybe early June, and I was really, really struggling. I had a very bad month. I remember the day we got rained out, I went out for early hitting, and I was working on something different. I was working on this toe tap. I had never done it before, but I said, what the hell? Like, I'm not hitting right now anyway. Like, what's the worst that could happen? We ended up getting rained out. I stay for a while during the rain out, and I must have hit 1,000 balls in the cage that day. The next day, you tell me I'm not in the lineup the first game. I'm going to play the second game. It's Scherzer. And most people would be like, I don't want to try something new against Scherzer. I was like, what's the worst that happens? Like, I'm going into this game struggling already. He's one of the greatest pitchers in the game. Like, he's either going to strike me out 3 times doing what I've done, or I'm going to try something different and maybe it clicks. And sure enough, first at bat, I hit the homer. Second at bat, I think I get a base hit to right. And then I think we were down like 2 runs, and I hit a 3-run homer in the 7th.
Right. That's right.
And I think we went on to win 11 in a row or 12 in a row after that. And I think that's kind of where we as a team kind of felt like we were really good and that we had the ability to go out and win every single day. And then the trade deadline happened, and we got these, superstar quality of players, and we got some other really good players, and things just seemed to roll. We felt like we could win every single day. That was our mindset when you showed it to the yard. There was no other option. We were going to win. And if we lost, we weren't going to lose 2 in a row. We felt like it was going to take another team's best game, and we were going to have to play pretty poorly to be beat. And that's a really, really good position to be in.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what? You know why that was such a big day for me too? You hit those homers. You might have saved my life a little bit, actually. My baseball career, because I can remember after the game, I was getting in the shower, or was it that day or the next day? We're heading home, right? Anyway, it's in one. I think it was Ron Sandelli or a security guy or somebody else came in and said, "Hey, the word in Toronto is on the news or the radio, whatever. That get home from this trip, you're getting fired." I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay." And I said, "Well," so I asked this guy, somebody call Alex Anthopoulos, our GM. Tell him find out if that's true. Because if it's true, I'm just hopping on a plane here in DC and flying home. I ain't going all the way back up there and then going. So let me know. So they called it. Somebody called Alex, and he said, "No, there's nothing to that. It's all BS." Because those things come out every now and then.
Yeah.
So it was really important. One of the really important games. I thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I think that's I don't know. I don't know how you deal with that too. I mean, I know we have different pressures and expectations as players, but ultimately we control our own destiny. We go out there and perform. I always feel for managers that, there's only so much you can do as a manager. You can motivate your guys, you can keep the clubhouse light, you discipline when need to be disciplined, but you're not playing the game.
No,
And I know you make decisions, but like you base decisions off of guys who go out there and perform, and sometimes guys don't perform. Like you have your bullpen lined up to face certain guys, and you don't know the guy's going to be shitty that day or he's not going to have his best stuff.
yeah,
So
but we can
I
also
would,
make stupid moves that lead to some of that stuff. But
yeah. I
in
mean,
the
and
end, Kevin, in the end, you know what? If you got good players, you're gonna have a good team, unless the manager really screws it up. Before we let you go, though, we got to get some quick thoughts on this year's postseason. You've been in the thick of it. You played all these guys, out there. It's crazy what's happening. I mean, the Yanks they could they're supposed to be one of the greatest teams ever 3 months ago. They could be eliminated this week. What's your thoughts on what's happening here? And you got a pick now or what?
well, I think that's the great thing about the playoffs is it's like having a great regular season and getting home field advantage is great and it's very, very important. But I think playing your best baseball at the right time is more important. But I think you just got to get to the dance. You just got to get there, and anything can happen. And I think more so than any other sport, baseball has the ability to see what we just saw, where you have the two lowest ranked seeded teams in the NL competing for a chance to go to the World Series. It really comes down to, do you have two or three good starting pitching? Does your bullpen click at the right time? Do you have some swing and miss stuff out of the bullpen? Can you get some timely hitting? But I think for the casual fan, I don't think people realize how different playoff baseball is from the regular season in terms of, yes, you want to try to win every single day in the regular season, but it is an impossible recipe to do it because you have to think about the long term. You have to think about the big picture of a season. You can't roll your best arms out there every single day. And as a offensive player, as a position player, like, yes, I want to do a good job and I want to move a runner over, in the sixth inning of a tie game in April, but we are individuals and we get paid off of statistics, and winning is important, but like there's a time and place to sacrifice in that bat. And in April in the sixth inning, it might not be the time. But then when you're in the playoffs, that is the only thing that matters. So it's a hard recipe to balance. You play such a different style of baseball. And I think the teams that maybe down the stretch, like the Phillies, like we're seeing that were playing for their lives down the stretch, I had to start playing that brand of baseball. I know for us in 2015 and 16, we didn't clinch to really late in 15. We won the division maybe with the last 3 or 4 games of the season. So we were playing, really important baseball. We were almost playing playoff baseball before playoff baseball. And you kind of get into that mind frame where it's not about me, it's about winning every single day. And then obviously in 16, we had to win the last day of the season to get into the wild card game. And we were playing playoff baseball for probably the last month of the season. So in some ways, I do think teams have an advantage that have to play up until the very last game of the season. you know, but on the flip side, a team like the Dodgers, you have the ability to kind of rest some guys, make sure guys are healthy. You get to set your rotation. There's no perfect science. And I think that's why baseball is great. You got to go out there and play. Home field advantage. The Dodgers with 111 wins get to set their rotation. They get their one going against a 4, home field advantage. But that's why baseball is the greatest sport.
Right.
I think that's why baseball and hockey are probably the two best playoffs in all of sports, because anything can happen. Typically in basketball, a better team's going to be a worse team. In football, a better team's typically going to be the worst team. But in baseball, all that gets thrown out the window. You have this team like Gibby mentioned. 3 months ago, we were talking about one of the greatest teams ever assembled. And we have a Cleveland team that no one really talked about all year that honestly went wire to wire in that division. No one expected them to be there. No one expected them to probably get out of the wild card round. and now they're having an opportunity to advance to the CS. It's exciting.
That's the beauty of baseball. And, you're going to even endear yourself more to Canadian fans because you brought up hockey a minute ago about the hockey playoff.
I know.
You are a PR dream.
I know. I mean, and I had invested interest in, I'm sure you guys did too, watching the Blue Jays series. And, that was tough to watch. But, the Blue Jays, I know they played in the postseason last year, but I don't think you can really consider or 2 years ago, the COVID year. Right. I don't think you can really consider that. That was just very unorthodox, right. But I think experience is key. And they were so close to winning. And that's like I said, that's the beauty of it is, you get so close, but you gotta get 27 outs. And I think that's something they're going to have to think about this offseason. I know a lot of those guys are going to be motivated. I know they got guys there that have been there, done it, but experience is key in those moments. And I think a lot of those guys got their feet wet. I think they, kind of like what we felt, too. When you get people really, really excited about baseball in Toronto and Canada, there's no place like it. And I think this current team has done a really good job. I know there was a little bit of a gap from our success to obviously the COVID year where they weren't able to be there, but to have playoff baseball back in Toronto, I know that, they're in a good position. I know people are going to be excited going into next year, and that's going to be a place that is going to be a really fun place to play for a long time. And they're going to kind of feel that home field advantage, starting in April. People are going to be excited to go back.
Maybe they'll bring you back. You never know.
Is that what it sounds like I'm doing right now? Is it working?
I know. Hey, Johnny Arizzi there is like the biggest Mets fan in the history, right?
Well, we can talk about the Mets too. I got some investment.
Oh gosh, no, we don't have enough time, man. He's already crying over there. I can see him wiping his eyes.
I mean, in some ways, it's got to make you feel. In some ways, it's got to make you feel better seeing San Diego win, because I think you just chalk it up to a team being really hot, executing, timely hitting.
You ain't talking. You're not talking to him when you say that. I don't.
Yeah, I am, because I know it hurts as a fan.
Oh, it hurt. It hurt big time.
I mean, you see San Diego go into New York, slay the three-headed monster they had, starting pitcher, and then they also come into LA and do the same thing. Like sometimes it makes you like if the Dodgers would have swept the Padres, you would have said, what happened? What a terrible year. But I think you look at it as San Diego had to play for their lives, very similar to, the Mets, but I think they just got hot at the right time. They got good pitching, timely hitting, and how it is being a Mets fan. New York's a tough place to play. There's a lot of, and I felt for them too. I was concerned about them because I know what it was like last year there, leading, up until September, leading division, kind of overachieving for the most part. We had so many injuries last year. And then when we lost first place just for a split second, it was, the win was taken out of our sails. It's just a tough place to play. Media, fans, the expectations are hard. So I felt like when they lost first place, that last series against Atlanta, they were up against something even bigger than the San Diego Padres. They were up against New York.
They took the wind out of their sails.
It did,
it took the wind out.
It's a unique place to play. It's a great place to play.
It is.
I bet you everyone says there's no better place to play when you're winning than New York. But when you're losing and you're unsuccessful, it's a really tough place to play.
Just look at the battle scars on Johnny's face over there. Not just because he's in pro wrestling, it's because he's a Mets fan.
They break your heart in a different way every year, but I understand. But hey, listen, even the Phillies, look what happened to them. It's been a great postseason so far. It's been a wonderful postseason.
Well, Kev, man, listen, pal, we appreciate. All right. Now life. Yeah.
Now we got two drop off. Like 2.
Good. Now it's daddy duties, man. Go do it. Let's go, brother. I'm proud. Hey, I'm proud of you, man. I appreciate you taking the time to do this for us.
Of course. Amanda wanted me to say hello too.
Well, good. I'm glad you're taking her somewhere to get away, man. It's important. But I can't thank enough. The baseball world can't thank enough, especially the Toronto Blue Jays fans, and they'll always remember you. And I wish you the best of luck, pal.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. We'll catch up.
All right, brother.
Thank you, Kevin.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Wow, that was great. I mean, Kevin, what a great guy. I mean, great interview, John. Got a lot out of him.
You know what, Johnny? He's one of my all-time favorites. For a lot of reasons, right? The way he played the game. What he did for the team, all that. But he's one of the good guys that cares. Great family man. Does everything right, right? And it's a great story because nothing was ever handed to him. He's kind of like the success story that you love to read about.
Yeah, he just doesn't give up.
He tells it like it is. He really tells it like it is, and
he did. He did.
That's always nice to hear.
No, I mean we only had him for one season in New York with the Mets, and I just fell in love with the guy right from the beginning of the season, and his passion and his grittiness, and it's coming back, and he just had this hard-nosed way about him, which any team can benefit from to have a guy like that.
Yeah, he's an ideal New York type player. If you want to know the truth,
yes,
he's got that mentality. He's got that he's loved everywhere, but he's got that grit and I mean, he'll fire back at you if you say something from the stands. You New Yorkers love to. Yeah, one of the funniest things I got first time I was in New York, I was scared to death. Right, this is like the movie Escape from New York I saw as a kid. But I was down at the field taking during batting practice, shagging fly balls, and I hear this little kid just screaming at me, cussing at me. Right, I'm going, this is my home team. I look over there, there's this little guy, he's cursing at me. Is his old man standing right next to him, laughing like egging him on. I go. I said, if I had ever done that, my old man would have grabbed me by the back of the neck. And anyway, but it was fun.
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough. The fans are tough there, and they, the kids get educated early up there in New York, and then they get tainted because after the first year or two, the Mets are breaking their hearts, and they become callous and mean, and they curse the players at the age of 7, probably.
And then they finally have had enough, and they moved to Nashville, man, to slow their life down.
That's right. That's me right now. I'm here. Oh man, we have obviously each and every week we allow the fans to reach out, and that's our asking Gibby segment. Ask Gibby a question. You could do that by just going to an email account that we have set up. It's askgibbyshow@gmail.com, or the hashtag on Twitter, which is just hashtag AskGibbyShow. And we have a few questions, John, which I thought would be interesting for you. One is a gentleman named Jorge Lopez. Ask Gibby Show. Hey, Gibby, my name is Jorge. I'll keep this quick and simple. What do you think are the 3 key needs for the Jays to go all the way in 2023? Thanks. Take care, Jorge.
Good question, Jorge. Johnny, I don't. Naturally, there'll be moves made, and I think you said they have like a couple free agents they got to deal with.
Just 2, yeah.
Yeah, everything's really in place. They got that. They got a good all around solid team, and I think what they experienced this year is going to do wonders for them, right? Even though it was kind of a crushing way it ended. So. Maybe strengthen the bullpen, which every team approaches every year. Every going to every offseason, everybody says, "Well, let's add to the bullpen." Every manager and coaching staff screaming, "Hey, we need this!" Right? It's usually the bullpen.
Yeah.
They had a couple injuries to the starting rotation. Rue and I don't know if he'll be back in time, but probably a key thing for him is how Barrios bounces back in that starting rotation. He's definitely a key guy because he's there a while. But everything's
big commitment to him.
Yeah, right. But if you look at their team, I really don't see one thing where you look and go, they're weak there, because that's not the case. It's just they ran into some tough luck, but the experience I think will do wonders. And then you pretty much just line up the rotation, make sure that it's in good shape, and add to the bullpen, which is usually the case for most teams.
Yeah, we'll be diving deep into all of these questions in future episodes here at the Gibby Show. We do have another question that came in on the Gmail account. A gentleman named Jeff Wilcox. Hey, guys, love the show. What's your thoughts about the schedule changing for next year with the teams not playing within the division as much and playing American and National League teams throughout the season. So what's your thoughts on that, John?
Johnny, it's about time in my eyes, right? I used to complain about that all the time when I was here in Toronto. American League East, and back then especially, it was the Yankees and the Red Sox were both at the top of their game, right? And of course, Baltimore was loaded. Baltimore's on the upswing, coming back now, but they were loaded back then, and Tampa was kind of on the verge, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, you think about it, if it's one thing if all you have is division winners and they go on to play the playoffs and all that. But when you have wild cards, it was always seemed to be unfair. I mean, there's no crying in baseball, but I'm going to cry a little bit here. If you got to play, you get some of your top teams in baseball every year in that division, because a lot of reasons because of the money bags, right? They got the money to do it. If you got to play them 18 times a year, it doesn't seem real balanced to me. If a team out west, plays some other team that struggles perennially, 18 times a year. So if you want to get a true read, that's the whole idea of how to get a true read to establish your wild card teams, right? That makes the most sense to me. But I always heard the argument, well, if your teams in the East they always want the Red Sox and Yankees coming to town more often because they make more money. I said, yeah. Okay, if the whole objective I know is to make money, but also you're going to make more money if you get in the playoffs and win.
True.
So I'm glad they did that. So it's about time. I don't know if it's completely balanced yet, but it's sure heading in the right direction, which is a good thing.
And you're going to see interesting matchups that you've never seen before, interleague matchups. I mean, just the fact that you're playing every team at least once. That's going to be real interesting for the fans and for the game. So, yeah, I'm right there with you on that one, John. We have one that came in through the hashtag, and that is hashtag Ask Gibby Show at Twitter. And it's a gentleman named Mansfield, and he had the question of, when's your book coming out?
That's a great question, man. Why don't you answer that one? Heck, you're in charge of all that, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with the publisher, and right now, I mean, beautiful cover of the book has been done. I mean, it looks great, John. You look real handsome on that cover.
Must have been doctored.
It must have been doctored, a little Photoshop, but looks good nonetheless. From what the publisher says, it'll come out the first week of the baseball season. So we're looking at April 2023 for a full release. It's at ECW Press. The name of the book is Gibby Tales of a Baseball Lifer, and it'll be everywhere beginning that first week in April.
Nice, and you get a set of crayons. I understand with it, to color a little bit in it.
There's that coloring section in the middle.
For the coloring book, nice.
And wait till the audio. There'll be an audio version out too. There'll be an audio book version out too. So I wonder who you get a tap on the shoulder to read that.
Well, I would do it, but I'm not sure they can understand me. Most of them. So, but listen, if we do that, all ages can read it and look at it and color through it. All that.
Everything. It'll be for all ages.
All ages, all right.
All ages. But that's exciting, John. I mean, that book is going to be, it's widely anticipated, and everyone's
I
very
appreciate
excited
you kind of spearheading all that, getting that going, and I really appreciate that anyway.
Well, you're quite welcome. It's been my pleasure, man. I've known you 41 years, so being able to be...
I just hope it does as good as your book is doing. I hope it does as well as your book.
Oh, but it's much better than my book. Matt Memories... Well, you're on the cover with me right there, John. You wrote one of the forwards to the book.
I mean, I like that bottom picture, man. Where was that taken from when you got in the ring with Dusty Rhodes?
Yeah, it was actually, and that's actually my father's bathrobe, which I turned inside out and had this purple silk lining. So yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of crazy things.
That's a New Yorker all the way, right there.
Yeah,
It'll be fun.
It was fun. But you liked wrestling a little bit.
I love wrestling.
Wahoo McDaniel was one of your favorites, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't know anybody that doesn't like wrestling, to be honest with you. And I'm sure obviously there is, but it's good. It's good old wholesome entertainment.
It is. It is.
You never know. Down the road, who knows what we have on
Soap opera for men. But anyway, we're going to wrap up this edition of the Gibby Show. We're going to have a lot more to talk about next week. We'll see what's going on with the playoffs and the League Championship Series leading into the World Series at the end of the month. There'll be other guests on the Gabbing with Gibby segment. So let's just let everybody know before we close up, you could get a hold of John on social media, Twitter, Instagram, at John Gibbons05. He loves to hear from you.
Yeah, no doubt.
You have fun with it. Well, take care, everybody. We'll talk more baseball with you next week.